Hello, welcome to Culture TV. This is the second video on Russian grammar cases. In this lesson, we'll look at the dative case and how to use it. Stay tuned. So this is lesson 34 of our online program, Let's Speak Russian. In the last video, we started looking at cases and we saw the accusative case and the concept of direct objects, okay? And I gave you some homework as well, which was to practice using the accusative case with certain verbs. The verbs were видеть, любить, and записывать. So let's take a look at what you should have had. I hope you've all managed to do this, or at least you've managed to have a go at it, okay? So, first of all, видеть, which means to see in the imperfective. This is a radical changing verb, so we're going to have an alteration of д, г, ж, okay? Я вижу тебя, I see you. Ты видишь меня, you see me. Он, она, оно, его, or ее видит. He, she, or it sees him or her. Мы вас видим. We see you. Вы нас видите. You see us. And finally, они их видят. They see them. Now, you might be wondering here, why have I put the object pronouns тебя, меня, его, ее, and вас, нас, and ich all in different places? Well, I can't really give you a concrete explanation here because it just sounds better to put it in a certain place. It is not wrong to put, for example, ich at the end and say они видят их. That is grammatically perfectly correct. It just sounds a bit better. It's a bit more pleasant to the ear to put ich before видят. But please don't worry about that. That's nothing to be concerned about for now. The main idea, of course, is just the ability to use all these object pronouns in the accusative case. Now, you might have noticed that видеть is a very irregular verb because it undergoes consonant alteration only for the first person, yet, strictly speaking, it is not the second conjugation group because it ends in yet. So, yeah, it's just one that you have to remember. Okay, the next verb was любить, which means to love. And this is quite a rare consonant alteration, but it is actually б to бл. And we will get я люблю тебя, ты любишь меня, он, она, оно, его, о, ее любит, мы вас любим, вы нас любите, они их любят. Okay? And finally we have записывать. We actually saw this in lesson 24 on verb affixes. It can mean to record, so i.e. to take a camera and make a video or take a photo. Also, it can mean to write down. So the first phrase here, я записываю тебя, means I record you. And this could mean that I'm taking my camera or phone or whatever and I'm taking a video of you. Also, it could mean that I'm writing you down, i.e. maybe I'm a doctor or a teacher or someone who is basically making appointments and I'm writing you down in a certain list or something. Basically, I'm creating a timetable maybe or something like that, but I'm writing your name down. Я записываю тебя. Then we have ты записываешь меня. Он, она, оно, его, о, ее записывает. Мы вас записываем. Вы нас записываете. Они их записывают. Okay, that was the homework. Any questions, any problems, please write them in the comments and I will explain everything to you. Okay, so moving on to today's lesson, which is the dative case, as I said already. Just a bit of a recap. The nominative case is used for the subject of the sentence, so the thing or person that is doing the action. The accusative case is used for the direct object of a sentence, so the thing or person that is being directly affected by the action. Now we have the dative case, which is used for the indirect object of a sentence. Now we know about direct objects, but what is an indirect object? It is the thing or person that is indirectly affected by the action. What a revelation. Even though it might seem self-explanatory, we should still have a look at a sentence. And the classic example is, I am throwing a ball to you. I'm throwing a ball to you. I am the subject. I am performing the action of throwing. Throwing is obviously the verb. a ball is our object. Now we can identify that simply by the sentence structure in English, because that is how it works. The first noun after the verb tends to be the object. So the ball is the thing that I am performing the action on. And finally, to you, that is the indirect object. Basically, I'm performing the action of throwing on the ball to you. Okay, so you're the second thing to be in line of the effects, the consequences even of this action. Okay, in English it tends to be at the end of the sentence. In Russian, though, as you already know, we can change and mess around with the word order and we still have the same meaning. So generally it is a thing or person that the action is being performed to, but not on. So I'm performing the action of throwing the ball on the ball. So I'm physically taking the ball in my hands and throwing it. So the ball is directly, firstly, mainly being the one affected by me throwing it. You are just receiving the ball. An action is being performed to you. And that is the general idea or notion of the dative case. So we've already seen the subject and object pronouns, which we refer to the nominative and accusative cases. You should be happy with this list of words, pronouns already. Now for the indirect object pronouns, also known as the dative case, here is the list. Мне, тебе, ему, ей, ему, also for it, нам, вам, and им. That's it. There haven't been major changes from the accusative case. We can still kind of track down the roots. We can still identify which person it belongs to, can't we? But yeah, you still need to learn them because they are different, of course, and you can't get them wrong. You can't confuse them. You can't replace the accusative case with the dative because we can have misunderstandings in terms of meaning, what you're trying to say. So definitely worthwhile memorizing this list and then actively using them. So let's take a look at a few examples. Here's basically the Russian equivalent of what I said previously. Брось мне мяч. Брось мне мяч. Now, брось is the imperative form of бросать, which is to throw in the imperfective. Now, we haven't looked at the imperative yet. It's in this one section or area of the topic of verbs that isn't that important at the moment. We will look at it soon, don't worry about that. But for now, it's just the command, throw, and then мне, as we saw, is me. So throw me the ball, мяч. Мяч is the ball, and мне, as we saw, is the indirect object. Next sentence. Я отвечаю тебе. Я отвечаю тебе. We saw the verb отвечать already. It means to answer. And this means I'm answering you. Now the question here is, where is the other object? There is no direct object here. It's just тебе. Yes, and this is where a few exceptions come in, and I'm going to have to explain this to you at the end of the video. Тебе is still the indirect object, but there is no direct object, which is quite strange, but just wait until the end of the video and I'll explain what I mean by that. Another sentence. Это она дала ему вчера. Это она дала ему вчера. Это this she gave. So dala is the perfect tense of dать, which means to give. And that's in the perfective. Obviously, that's where we have the perfect tense. Ему, to him. And then вчера, yesterday. She gave him this yesterday. Okay, that's pretty much what the sentence means. Again, you can switch the word order. It still doesn't make any difference in terms of meaning. It's just it might sound better. Just the tone might change if you jumble around the words. And finally, we have напишите нам, пожалуйста. Напишите нам, пожалуйста. Please write to us. Okay? Now, this is similar to the second sentence, but notice how in English we say write to us. So not to write us, not to write me, not to write him, but write to them, to us, to you. And that is kind of the English equivalent of the dative case, where the action is being performed to somebody. So we can say in this case that with writing, it's either the pen or the paper that is the direct object. It's just that we're not mentioning it, but you, the one who's receiving the letter or the message, whatever, You are the one who's indirectly affected by the action of me writing. Quite hard to explain, really. It's not an easy concept, but you will get around it eventually. It's just you have to be, as I keep saying, exposed to Russian texts, and eventually it will just become second nature. Now, there's actually a very good way to remember why we use that, for example, with a dative case, or any verbs that involve giving something to someone, an action being performed towards someone rather than not using that person. Yes, same example with the ball. I'm using the ball to throw it to you, and you are the one receiving it. Yes, to you. Look at the verb that. Well, we can see the first three letters are dat, which is dative case. Okay, that's a good way to remember it. Any verbs with a similar meaning to giving will tend to be the dative case in Russian. And that is what I mean. Each verb in Russian has its own case. A case that the following nouns or adjectives or pronouns have to be declined in. The correct word to use here is to decline. It's basically to change a noun in a certain case. So that there's some kind of, and I can't really say agreement here because that's a different area of grammar, but so that it matches. Certain verbs will have to have a certain case followed after them. For example, that tends to be followed by the dative case. Yes, because I'm giving something to you. Although if you are talking about I am giving a pen to you, obviously a pen won't be in the dative because that's the direct object, but you in this case will be the indirect object. There's a specific term for this in Russian, and I have no idea how to translate it into English. I'm just going to translate it literally, and it's going to be the control of the verb, okay? So if you ever hear me referring to the control of a verb, it's basically the case that a certain verb is followed with, okay? That's it. So I'll give you time to digest everything that we've learned today. Please rewatch the video as many times as you need. Likewise, any questions or queries, put them down in the comments. I will answer, absolutely. And thank you very much for your attention. See you next time. Goodbye.